St. Louis Blues 4, Edmonton Oilers 3. Welcome back to the day after reaction. Myself was my friend Dan, and the Oilers get their first loser point. They lose for the first time in the shootout this season. And of course, like after every Oilers loss, there's something controversial happening. There's something to yell about, I feel. It's Darnell Nurse. It's the overtime decision with Connor McDavid, the offside. Just quickly, I think we'll get into the big headlines in this one. Honestly, there's not much to react to up until the final minutes of this game, honestly, right, Dan?
Yeah, it was a quiet game. Myself was as I mentioned to you off
Yes.
air. Unfortunately, I was running some stepdad duties as well as hockeyfights.com.
Yeah.
We had 3 fights there last night as well. But yeah, it was a pretty low event game until that last 10-15 minutes of the game, and all chaos broke loose.
Yes, and I think I'll start off with a little positivity, and we talk about him every night. Connor McDavid was an absolute machine this game. That goal he scored where he kind of just came out of nowhere, did it himself, perfectly put, as someone behind me said, yeah, just do it yourself. And he did. He just goes down past every defenseman, goes, I think, bar down on Jordan Binnington. It was one of the best goals I've seen live. And no flex. I saw his goal against Columbus in his rookie year. That was still number one for me. But yeah, Connor McDavid, just a little something to know from Mike Kelly. Connor McDavid's controversial zone entry in overtime was a big story last night. Regardless, he was absolutely buzzing the entire game. McDavid finished with 18 controlled entries, most by any player in a game this season. He averages 9.6 per game, which leads the league. Which, yeah, I mean, like I said, Connor McDavid, this man, is he human? I'm not sure, but he was very human in the post game press conference, though.
Well, yeah, it was. I mean, you've seen it. You've seen it from Connor a couple times in the past. Now, obviously, this wasn't spurred on by so much frustration from the referees, but you definitely could feel from this puck drop that Connor McDavid was a man possessed and wanted to win that game last night. And by the final horn, you could see he was just visibly upset on the bench. And
Mm-hmm.
like you mentioned, he was a bit human in his interview afterwards. I don't expect the league is going to have any problem with what he said,
No.
but Connor is feeling what a lot of fans are feeling these days. And as Weather fans, we're in a bit of a unique situation because we experience all the highs and lows that Connor has experienced. And for me as a fan, I'm often left wondering after most Oiler games about something that happened or some call that was called in a different way. This one is not so much the offside. I don't think. I think that's just our frustration kind of creeping out, and myself included. I'm also, a person that was ranting about the offside more than I was talking about the performance on ice. And again, I don't want to be a person that's viewed as a hater, but I really am not happy with the game that Darnell Nurse had, and I
Yes.
know he wasn't happy with it either. So, as much as we're upset at an offside call that happened in overtime, we should have never been there. Should
Yeah,
have never had
100%.
had that conversation. Should have never worried about offsides in overtime because we shouldn't have had 2 goals that came off of the stick of our number one left defenseman, Darnell Nurse, and went into the back of the net. So,
Yeah.
it's one of those things, Waz, you and I have talked on this show. It feels like every time I'm talking about wasting an effort from Stuart Skinner the last 5 or 6 times. And here we wasted an effort from Stuart Skinner, but we also wasted an effort from Connor McDavid. And those do come more often than not, but you can't be wasting nights like that where he is a man possessed and all you had to do is just bend but not break with a 3-1 lead in the third period.
I agree with you, and I think we should really talk about that Darnell Nurse play because hell, that was the name on the tongue of many Oilers fans leaving Rogers Place last night. I went to the washroom right before leaving, and everyone was saying Darnell Nurse. Why does he get paid 9.5 mil? Darnell Nurse saying very not so fun, pleasant words about him. So it is frustrating to see him make a play like that, considering how much he's being paid. And the reality is that Darnell Nurse, I know many want him traded. It's not going to happen. He has a no movement clause. What team is going to take on that contract, right? It's not going to happen. So, as Oilers fans, we just need to hope that he can turn it around. And, I find that Darnell Nurse has all the tools to be a top 2 defenseman, but his decision making seems to be lacking. Would you agree, Dan?
Um, yes and no. It's like I don't know. It's one of those things, and this is kind of systematic of our fan base in general. Is I feel like we, whether it's, I don't know if it's the fans, I don't know if it's the people that write about the team, I don't know what it is, but we feel like we have to have an answer for every single loss that happens. And
Yes.
yes, Darnell Nurse is a part of the answer as to why this loss happened, but Darnell Nurse isn't the reason that this team is in a wild card spot right now. And Darnell Nurse isn't the reason that this team isn't blowing the doors off of the St. Louis Blues throughout the entire game. So, yes, this game is, there's two of the three goals are firmly placed around the neck of Darnell Nurse as his to bear for the day. But at the end of the day, this team just has to be better. They have to be able to beat these St. Louis Blues and not be in a position where you're fighting and you're clawing tooth and nail to stay alive in a third period against the St. Louis Blues. It's just not happening. And then you go into a shootout against a goalie like Binnington, and Binnington is going to stand up and make his stance. And so, yeah, it's one of those things that, again, come back to it as a fan base. We feel like we have to have a reason and an explanation that we can point to and say that's why we lost the game. But at the end of the day, the Edmonton Oilers lost the game. The St. Louis Blues didn't. And that's all that matters. And we need to be better as a team going forward and not have these gaffes from our veterans or our rookies. Nobody. You just can't have them.
I 100% agree, and it's crazy how we were seconds away from not having this conversation about Darnell Nurse and this. We were seconds away from having a peaceful victory, and it just didn't happen. And I would say, yes, Darnell Nurse is at fault for that goal in the third period. He also mentioned after the game, I turned the puck over with 18 seconds left. That's unacceptable on my part. Nurse said, I let my teammates down tonight. We shouldn't be in the position to be an OT like that. I played too many important minutes in situations like that to be making mistakes like that. And he owned up to it. Accountability is important, in my opinion, but show it next game. Let's just go out and prove everybody wrong. That's all I want from Darnell Nurse. Prove people wrong. Prove us wrong.
That's all I really ask for for any of these players that wear these losses, is not to dwell on that and have it be a thing that keeps coming up over and over again. And we're cursing Darnell Nurse's name or we're cursing Jesse Puljujarvi's name. That's not what it should be to be an Oilers fan. We should be going out knowing that Darnell knows that he wore that one and that he's going to do better the next game and the next game and the next game. That's what we want.
Yes, and of course, just to finally comment on the McDavid offside. If you had the OilersNation.com, we have the NHL's explanation of the review. Edmonton's Connor McDavid proceeded the puck into the offensive zone without possession and control, and therefore wasn't in an offside position prior to Leon Draisaitl's goal. Now, everybody's pointing fingers at the Cale Makar incident in the playoffs, which is kind of fair, but at the same time, there was an incident a while back with the Washington Capitals where a similar incident happened. It was essentially the same thing. And the Capitals got the goal, and I think they got the win. So I think where people are frustrated is just inconsistency and confusion with calls like this, would you say?
Yes, I also think that there's a certain amount of reality that is not being harnessed in these rule definitions. And for me, the thought that Connor McDavid, when he lifts his stick away from the puck, while he's still in motion, moving forward with said puck following him, that somehow he lost possession there. Like, if that's the case, then Connor McDavid pushed the puck away from him further than that puck was on that offside during his shootout. So why didn't he lose the shootout attempt? Because he technically lost possession of the puck in the shootout attempt. Yeah. I just, like, my thing is it's a league that from infraction to infraction is explaining definitions differently. And Cale Makar lost possession of the puck, but he was hovering around said puck. McDavid was continuing through his play and continuing down the ice with the puck, and somehow he lost possession of it. Yeah. I'm lost as an Oilers fan. I'm lost as a hockey fan. And the NHL just has to do a better job with its definitions and its explanations in these very, very specific situations. And then they can call back to them afterwards. But instead, what they do is they just pretend that the Cale Makar incident didn't happen. The Washington Capitals incident didn't happen. And we're just talking about tonight. And we're just talking about what happened with McDavid. It's silly. That's not how reality works. We have these different situations so that we can point to them and look at them and have it explained to us. but they're not doing it. The league continues to not do it. And then we're the idiots because we don't understand it.
Yeah. And, people are going to say, oh, you're crying, you're whining, da 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 da. But so what? It's an incident that happened to our team. We're all confused. And, to the casual hockey fan, they're left like scratching their head. Like, well, how was that offside? Da 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 da. It sucks.
And was.
Right?
Even if you put aside the fans, even if you just say, you know what, fans will never understand it, don't get it. Connor McDavid's asking questions.
Yes.
The best player in the league is asking questions of you now. So how many more people have to say that they're confused by the rules before we start working on them?
Exactly. Perfectly put. And of course, head to OilersNation.com for more in-depth analysis and all the explanations on these rules and incidents that happened last night. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for tuning into the Day After Action. Myself, was my friend Dan, and we'll see you after Anaheim.